Alrighty, we are back with another part. So, Mom, we learned a little bit about your dad was a sharecropper and he was a mechanic, and your mom was a housemaker. We learned a little bit about your school days and everything like that. Did you have a favorite subject while you were in school by any chance?
I had three: reading, writing, and spelling. I made straight A's on those. Those were my three subjects I loved.
Gotcha.
And I also loved history. I
Cool.
didn't make good grades in, but I loved history, reading about what happened before and what was going on and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I like the world is a large.
So, did you go to high school by any chance? I mean, I know the school you went to said went all the way up to the eighth grade. Did you go to high school by any chance?
No, I didn't. My mother told me we couldn't afford it. My dad said we could, but my mom told me when his back was turned that we couldn't afford it, so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go. But in the eighth grade, where I went to, they were giving out class. They were giving you a chance to buy a class ring
Mm-hmm.
that would have your initials inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
There was 550, 650, and 750. My classmates all picked the 750 one,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother said no. My dad says yes. So enough about it. My older sister, had gotten a class ring. Well, I think hers cost $5, which I don't know whatever happened to it, but and I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the school year, we were going to go to Chattanooga to spend a night in a hotel and eat in a cafeteria, a big cafeteria, not in a big cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that. And you had to sell magazine subscriptions to pay for it. And my dad says, "No, I'll pay for it, so you don't have to worry about it." And when I told my teacher that, she says, "No problem." Another one says, "Boy, I wish my dad would do that for me."
That's nice.
Yeah,
So,
but we moved away before that
so
happened.
you didn't go to high school, did
No,
you? But you got a GED, if I remember correctly.
I went to school. Lived in Memphis at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
my class best friend, her husband was a teacher, a biology teacher,
Mm-hmm.
to be precise. So he got me a book, a GED. So I was planning on going to get my GED which was like having a high school diploma,
Right.
and you didn't have to pay for it.
That's cool.
All you had to do was just show up at where they were having the test given.
Right. Gotcha. So you stayed in Tennessee, and that's where you met my dad, right?
Yes, I met your dad through. I was living with this woman, and I had moved. My sister and I had moved to Memphis, and then when she died, I stayed in Memphis.
Right. How did you meet him exactly? I mean,
I walked up to him and said that I'm having dinner at my home, and I'd like to invite you there. But she accepted.
that's good.
I mean, it's not as bold as it likes because I was. We had people over for some Saturday nights. We had
Right.
people over and have them over to come over for dinner.
Right. Gotcha.
So, but
So how long did you two date before you actually got married exactly?
for about 9 months.
Okay.
But to get back to my class ring, after I got my class ring, a classmate, only girl, I mean, it was three girls, Elaine comes to me and says, "Why don't we swap rings?" I go, "Okay." Then finally I said, "No, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
because my dad bought this ring for me. And
Right.
so why should I swap rings with you?" And then she gives me this, "Well, your initials will fade if I'm like, okay. I thought, okay. At least it was my ring that got, but 50 some years later, the class rings, the initials are still there.
That's very true. I can verify that. I mean, you showed me the ring and stuff like that. So, yeah, I can tell the initials are still there.
So I went to school and I still moved to Memphis. I got involved by that time. My dad was working at E.J. Lavino's, and he worked with men that were
Mm-hmm.
members of a Worldwide Church of God, which found out later it was a cult, but I got involved in it, moved to Memphis, started making my own living. And like I said, then to go back to going to meeting my husband, I just knew his name was John.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told men that worked on computers did housework differently. I thought, because see, that was kind of like I was doing. I was doing maid work every day at different houses. I thought, interesting. Come to find out, no, they don't do housework differently. They just don't do housework, period.
Yeah, some men are pretty lazy and everything like that, but okay.
But he wasn't as lazy like that. But okay.
Right, I get it though.
But so I met, and by this time I was living with this woman that my sister and I lived with before. But this time we were more like on equal basis. I was paying part of the bills, and
Mm-hmm.
so we met,
Mm-hmm.
and before Passover, and then our church always went away for the in the fall. If you could afford it, you went away. You saved your 10% income and went away where places you normally wouldn't go. So I had a chance to go to St. Peter's, St. Petersburg, Florida, which was to be transferred to Big Sandy, Texas.
Okay.
And I went to Big Sandy, Texas, and everybody kept telling me I was gonna. My spouse at the time, my boyfriend, was gonna. We were gonna break up, and I thought. I got advice from it, and someone said, if you lose him that fast, you don't really have him. I thought, right. I got it from Helen Ware, a woman I worked with, her mother. So I said, okay, if I lose him that fast, and I told him we were going to go to the Dallas, Texas. They had a state fair, and I was going to go afterwards, so I would not be coming directly home.
Right, so you met him that way. And did you guys stay in Tennessee when you guys got married and everything like that?
Unfortunately, my spouse had lost his job soon after we got married. So he was in the process of moving our things to pack up things, and the things he really wanted to keep, like a set of encyclopedias. He was packing up to send to take to his parents' home, let them keep him in their attic.
Okay.
So soon after that, we moved from around March time in '77. We moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was told to keep quiet about it.
So how long did you stay in Georgia by any chance? I mean, I know that that's where my grandparents were living, and
we stayed in Georgia. Soon afterwards, his mother died in 1977. And this time he's found a job, and then he gets a chance for a better job in Washington, D.C. area. The person, Ken O'Neill, which became my friend as well. Ken was divorced at the time, but I like Ken. And so Ken offered him a job, sent him sales papers of houses, and dumbfounded the prices. But we said, okay. So by this time we had bought a house in Norcross, Georgia. It was just right for a couple. The only thing it didn't have was a washer dryer hookup. But it was near places where I could walk to, and so we moved from Atlanta, Georgia, to up here in November of '79. And we talked to our neighbor that was a real estate agent. He said he would put the house on the market for us and not charge us for us. But he had this woman that worked with him as a real estate agent as well. She was divorced, had 2 children, and she wanted to buy a house. And she said, well, only thing is that we had a dishwasher. I'll do the painting that you have to do, but I just want the dishwasher. It was given to us. I mean, when his mother died, he had bought it for her, so his mother, she never used it. So we gave it back. We said, okay. So we talked to this man, our neighbor. Sunday night, it was sold.
Wow, that's fast.
And we moved up to Washington, D.C. area, and here I be.
So you guys had me at 85 and everything like that. How did my name come about exactly? I mean, people have always asked, well, where did Alicia come from? I mean, they know the Victoria that it came from my grandmother and stuff like that. Where did Alicia come from?
We were looking at names, and I said, we need to pick a girl's name out. Okay. Then he said, how about Charlotte? I'd had a bad experience with a classmate. She was not younger than me, but her name was Charlotte, and I thought, no Charlotte. Then I was looking at baby names in a baby book. And I said, how about Alicia? Found out the name is Greek. It means captivating. Then he said, okay, Alicia Victoria, that's what her name was. And so that's how she got her name, Alicia Victoria. I saw the name of the baby book, and I thought, that's unusual. Alicia.
Yeah. It is
I have since then met two other people that had that same name.
That's true.
It's a very unusual name, and people say it wrong.
They spell it wrong too. They do all sorts of variations. I'm like,
Yeah, they spell it wrong. They say it
yes,
wrong.
yeah, I've got so many variations. I mean, I always jokingly say, you can call me anything but late for supper.
Right.
But yeah.
So I had her.
You also have one thing we didn't mention earlier is that your father had a Native American background because of his mother, correct?
Yes, his mother was half Cherokee Indian. Her mother, Alice, was full-blooded Cherokee, and I have got a picture of my great-grandmother. And at the angle when she's holding my dad as a baby, it looks like my dad wearing a dress.
Wow.
That shocked me.
So what happened? Alice. So what happened exactly to your grandmother? Do you know?
My grandmother was married to my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
I know she had 5 children altogether, but she had 2 by my grandfather, and doctors were not using very good hygiene. And he had treated someone that was sick. I don't know what was wrong with them, if they recovered or what, but my grandmother, he came to see my grandmother after she was having the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And because he hadn't washed his hands, he gave my grandmother got a fever.
Oh.
And it eventually killed her.
Wow.
My dad was maybe 2 or 3 years old, at 3 maybe at the most. And he had a baby brother that died months later. This happened in July. She died in August. In November, my Dave's brother died as well of whooping cough. They call it diphtheria.
Right, they've changed the name since then, yeah.
So, but my grandfather eventually remarried and married a woman that was 11 years older than my dad, and she had 10 children, 5 boys, 5 girls, and she raised my dad. So she raised 11 children.
Wow.
But Grace.
That's crazy.
I mean, come to find out, I met later on through relatives that were related to her, to Grace. But I got pictures of her, but I didn't really know. I didn't know that much about what was going on.
Right, of course.
I just knew that he had this trunk, and he told us when we moved into a house years later, he told us not to mess with that trunk. We thought first it was Pop's. My sister and brother got involved in it and got messed with it, and we thought it was popsicle sticks, but apparently she was in fever, and it was tongue suppressors.
Oh.
And it looked like popsicle sticks.
Yeah, they would look like that. Yeah, because tongue depressors are very, very similar.
Right, but anyway, I moved, and we moved to Georgia, and then we moved up here, and I've been up here ever since then. And
so what kind of work did you do exactly when you were working? I mean, I know you mentioned that you were doing housekeeping and stuff like that.
I did housekeeping. I did baby child care. And I was a waitress at a Pizza Hut. I worked at McDonald's for a while. Then I worked as a waitress at a Pizza Hut. And then up here, someone said that they worked in the school system and you could get off in the summer, and it sounded like a good idea. So I went there, filled an application, and they said, okay, we'll call you. And I started working in the school system, and then I had a rough time because of my manager, so I quit.
Right.
I mean, I still work part-time, but I worked as if I was still working. I didn't have any benefits like I did before. And then I had a chance to be permanent again at the school where I was within walking distance of where we lived. So I did, and they told me, Faye Morris, she was the one that was conducting and said, look, we hired you again. I can't guarantee you that you'll be hired again if you quit.
Right.
I said, okay, thank you, I understand that. And I meant myself, no, I would not quit again. And so I worked in the school system, and I retired in July of when I was 66.
Yeah, in 2016. Yeah,
2016.
7 years ago.
7 years later, I mean, by this time in 2009, my spouse had been diagnosed with cancer. And from being almost 5'10" to about 5'4".
Yeah.
I mean, it was in his bones.
Yeah.
And So didn't know what to do. We had money to pay for the funeral, but I had a great funeral home, Jenkins Funeral Home, and they did a great job. And they told me, yeah, because he wanted to be cremated, so we cremated him.
Right.
Someone bought the urn, said, we'll pay for the urn. Someone said, and Jenkins said, yeah, we can work it out for you to be buried at Arlington. I go, you can? Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember he wanted a military funeral.
He wanted a military funeral.
Yes.
So he got the 21 gun salute.
Yeah.
He got buried in Arlington. In turn, he was cremated and they're put in a niche, and that's where he's been ever since.
Right, exactly.
And I thought, okay, rough part's over with. But in 2010, and I'm back to work again, but then I get a phone call. Your mom has had a stroke.
Right.
And I thought, okay, 24 hours I knew that was critical, the first 24 hours. Well, my mom survived the first 24 hours, but within about 27, and within really 27 hours, she died.
Yeah, that was hard.
This was around Christmas time.
Yep.
The day we were going to get off to take Christmas break. So I had to say, no, I can't. I had to get reservations to fly to Tennessee, get bumped on my flight. It was, but Christmas Eve, I was burying my mom.
Yeah, that was really hard. That you remember that.
But and then because my husband had persuaded me to get a reversible mortgage, which both of our names were on the lease, and then the reversible mortgage, it was put on him, and then they told me, they kept telling me, you need to pay this bill, the whole amount, not just some of it, but all of the amount. I couldn't.
Right.
So eventually, they foreclosed on me.
Yeah.
So my daughter and I had to find a place, and then someone helped find us a place, moved it, paid for the move, which we leased from a woman. I went to church with her husband, did moving business, and so he moved us. And from a 2-bedroom, really a 3-bedroom home, to a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So many things had to go by the wayside. So, and then,
yeah, lots changed. What would you say some of your favorite memories of having a kid? I mean, I'm your only kid, obviously, but
she's my daughter's only child. She's the oldest, youngest, and middle. She's my favorite. One of the things I did was we did things together. We were pretty tight. And she was with a youth group, with the Worldwide Church of God, and then they had a chance to go whitewater rafting. So one of the things I said, okay, that sounds like fun. So I went whitewater rafting.
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
And I'd never been in an airplane until in 76. I flew from Memphis to Atlanta to meet my in-laws for the first time, and got confused. And the person told me they would tell my fiance at the time that I was on the plane waiting for him. Well, they didn't.
Oh no!
So he comes to me and says, "I have the tickets now."
Oh no!
So finally, he said, "Why did you?" I said, "Somebody told me they would tell you that you were there." And he said, "Well, they didn't. I just thought on the last chance that you might be on the airplane." So I was waiting for them.
Wow.
So I don't know. He said, "What would you have done if I?" I said, "I don't know. I think I probably would have Atlanta. I don't know what I would have done. Probably I didn't know who I was supposed to meet. I had not met his parents, so yeah, I'm like, ooh. But yeah, I had my daughter. I've went trips on Greyhound buses. We went whitewater rafting.
Yep, that's true.
So I think we had a lot of adventures together, walking around the neighborhood and all around the block, and we would stop and talk. And my daughter turns to me afterwards, Mom, you know everybody, don't you? I says, no, I don't know everybody, but I knew enough to say hi and how are you, and they knew enough like that. So yeah. I mean, a 5-minute walk that would normally take 10 minutes took us at least close to an hour to walk because we were stopping and talking.
Yeah.
So those were one rewarding moments.
Okay. Okay, well, we're going to stop right there, folks, and we'll go for the next part.